run us through the key points, how you are looking to refinance this huge debt that AMCON has, which obviously has created some tension in the markets.
The key point is when we started at AMCON, we had a funding model with some assumptions as to how things would turn out. And we update the model frequently. And the key point is that we assumed a recovery rate for a non-performing loan purchase of 70% of purchase price. So far, we have exceeded that. We're well over 100% recovery rate. The other assumptions that we made that were key, reinvestment rates, we're meeting the reinvestment hurdle. And the growth rate of banks, we assume will be 20% of bank growth rate. And last year, according to the First Bank Capital, banks' assets grew at 41%. So all the key assumptions in the funding model have been met or exceeded, and we remain confident that AMCON will be able to service its debt, refinance its debt when due, and ultimately redeem the bonds when due.
But will it be mandatory for investors to buy AMCON bonds going forward, or would you give them cash?
We are not going to make people redeem their bonds mandatorily. In other words, we're not going to force people to take our refinance bonds when we refinance them. But the challenge for AMCON is to make sure the markets develop enough and are deep enough to handle the refinancing, which starts in December 2013. AMCON is making efforts to educate investors, educate analysts, educate treasurers of banks, and everybody involved in holding AMCON bonds as to the safety, the security, and to enhance the liquidity and tradability of those bonds. But we will not be asking for mandatory rollover of the assets people hold. When we go to refinance, we're going to the market, we're going to use market rates, and we're going to use every market mechanism that we can to make sure that the people who hold the bonds today don't have to refinance into the new bonds.
How can foreign investors get involved? How can they get in the picture of investing in AMCON bonds?
Foreign investor involvement is very, very important to us, but we can't plan for it. Nigerian financial institutions, pension funds, and banks are deep enough to handle AMCON bonds. But yes, foreign involvement will be a bonus, but we can't plan on that. We are looking to the Nigerian market, Nigerian debt markets to handle our refinancing. At least over 90% of it we expect to be the Nigerian institutions.
What about the bridge banks, the banks that you now own 100% of? There are 3 of them. Give us a sense of where you are going with that transaction. You've already advertised that you are looking to get advisors to tell you what to do with these investments.
There are 2 issues with the bridge banks. There's a philosophical issue, which is that AMCON philosophically is not willing to hold onto banks. The stated Nigerian policy is to privatize such institutions, and we actually are adherent of policy. So philosophically, we want to sell these banks as soon as practicable. But the practical issue is that these things have to be done very carefully. Banks are regulated institutions with depositors' funds, and things have to be done carefully and transparently. So we've set out on the first step of a journey. The first step is to get advisors to look at the banks, look at AMCON, and advise AMCON on how to proceed. It is based on that advice that we can actually start talking about what happens next. We're at the advisory stage. We have advertised for advisors. I think we received 25 expressions of interest. We will review those expressions of interest, appoint competent advisors who will tell us what the next step will be. But philosophically, we are determined to sell those banks as soon as practicable.
Right, so these bridge banks own several investments. They have huge subsidiaries, and those include even foreign banks elsewhere in Africa, for instance. Would you be disposed to allowing local banks in Nigeria who are looking to expand into other African countries invest in those subsidiaries?
We have mandated the management of the bridge banks to look at their subsidiaries, both foreign and domestic, both core banking and non-core banking, and give us a plan as to whether they want to divest those subsidiaries or want to keep them. Based on their recommendation, the AMCON board will either agree or disagree with their recommendations. But in the event that banks choose to divest some of their subsidiaries, we expect the banks to do it themselves. We expect them to do it as private, independent organizations. And once we agree that that's the right course of action, the banks will be doing it themselves, not AMCON.
So does that mean if any of the former bridge banks want to do deals with Nigerian banks, you're saying that the current management can do those deals?
That's what we're saying, yes.